as you're coming in, would you take just a moment and use the chat box to say good morning or good afternoon? Tell us where you are coming to us from, and we'll get started here in just a moment. We're really glad to have everybody here today, and one of our favorite segments of the Wednesday webinars is our monthly chat with Micah Gaudet. Micah is the assistant city manager or deputy city manager, I think it is, at Maricopa, Arizona. He and I were just talking about the fact that we are going to be in Phoenix for the TLG conference, April 7th through the 9th. And I'm already making my plans to see a Phoenix Suns basketball game if the schedule cooperates with me. I'm an NBA junkie and I love to see any NBA team play that I can. And that's an economic driver. And that's what Micah is going to be talking about today. Krista, you have a big background in economics because of your work as the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce there in Graham. What are you excited about hearing when it comes to AI and economic development?
Well, I'm very excited, and it's so hard to predict like what I'm excited about because I feel like every time we hear from Micah, I learn something I didn't even know was possible. So maybe that's what I'm most excited about. But I think the use of data in general when it comes to economic development is so crucial, and I think a lot of departments are starting to really embrace that, and knowing what tools are available and how to use them is going to just further equip them. So I'm very, very excited to hear from Micah today.
Yeah, I think, in just a short 2 or 3 years, we've come from, what is this to, oh my gosh, you're the haves or the have nots, depending upon how you're going to use this tool. So, Micah, as always, thanks for joining us. We look forward to your presentation, and we'll turn it over to you and let you share.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Glad to be back with everyone today, and excited also for TLG coming to the Valley here in the Phoenix area, the basin. So excited to host you all down here. And I know the team in Scottsdale are just going to be wonderful, wonderful hosts, and excited to be there as well too. Excited to meet anyone that comes out there. So let me go ahead and I'm going to share my screen here. There we go. So talking today about AI for economic development, I'll give just kind of a brief overview of why I think this is important, and then we'll get into the fun stuff, right? So first off, how does AI enhance economic development, right? And a couple of things that I thought of first is entrepreneurship support. So when I think of this is we have economic development is such a huge topic, right? It ranges from bringing in these large scale industrial and big box stores and stuff like that are vital to our economy, but also includes startups, includes small businesses. And a lot of times these small businesses need that helping hand to be able to write their business plans, to put things together, to apply for grants, right? We'll talk about in a second. And AI is a great tool to help that out, right? As an when you're in economic development from a local government perspective, you're kind of the jack of all trades and expected to be the master of every single one, right? You have to learn how to speak to both small businesses and large corporations and be able to do both in an effective manner. And AI really helps us to be able to do that. Second thing, and we're going to spend a lot of time on this, and the example is grant writing, right? A lot of our economic development projects are tied to grants, whether that's CBDG grants, or whether it's Rural Development Block grants, whether it's some Economic Development Agency grants, such as I think there's a Build to Scale program that just got released recently. These are different tools that we have available and funding opportunities to help fund our economic development projects. The other one too is just staying informed. Tools like Perplexity help us to know what are those opportunities that are out there. What are other cities doing in terms of economic development, and taking a regional approach to understand we don't need to compete with the region or our regional partners, instead complementing them. So staying informed of what development's coming in and the complementary industries that are associated with that as well too. And part of this is also, you think through, okay, if there's a large shipping, so for example, right, there's a large shipping industry that comes into a local city, a large logistical hub, say like an Amazon warehouse or something of that kind of nature, a lot of shipping going on. Okay, what are the ancillary industries that are around that? Maybe your local city didn't secure the Amazon headquarters, the Amazon warehouse, but what are the other areas that you could look at? And AI is a great tool to help brainstorm those opportunities. The other thing too is just data insights, right? Looking at what are the trends in economic development that we're seeing within our region. What is the workforce metrics that we have? How many people are employed? What are the degree makeup of our workforce? How many of them have degrees? How many of them have high school diplomas? What are those kind of things? Those are just the different, and even things like how many people are driving outside of our city to go work somewhere else instead of working here in our own city. These are some of the data insights that we can pull using AI, using tools like Perplexity, ChatGPT, to be able to find these insights, call the data, and be able to put together a really tailored economic development plan for our communities. So the other thing too is, okay, what are some AI tools to know about in economic development? We're going to use a couple of these, but I want to make sure that you're aware of these other tools. And I encourage you to go back and watch previous Wednesday webinars that we've done before. I've talked about a lot of these tools. ChatGPT obviously is one of the most common ones that we have. I still use it basically every single day. In fact, I don't remember a day I haven't used it. Even on Sundays, I use it. So very helpful tool. Another one, I know we've talked about this specifically within SGR, I believe is the one on finance. So if you go back and watch the finance Wednesday webinar episode, you'll see a demonstration of Julius. This is a really great tool built for data analysis and financial insights and things like that, which I think is really important to understand in economic development. So if you're not familiar with Julius, go back and watch that webinar. I'll give you a good demonstration of what that tool does and how to use that tool. Mistral is another tool that I've started to use. It's free to use. We won't go into depth on Mistral today, but just know Mistral AI. It's just basically really good for writing. I like the way it writes, and so I've often used Mistral if I'm writing narratives. Right, think through. Okay, if I need to write a project narrative for a grant, or I need to write a or need to rewrite an economic development plan or paragraph here or there, a very good tool for that. And then Perplexity as well. It's basically an AI search engine with sourced results. I think it's very, very helpful. It's basically Google on steroids is the best way I can describe it. And it's just a phenomenal tool to be able to provide real-time data and real-time insights into any topic you could possibly imagine. So one thing that I want to emphasize before we kind of get into our demonstration is that AI works best with the right human in the loop. We've heard the conversation about the human in the loop idea, which I'm a big proponent of. I add the caveat of the right human in the loop, because it's not just enough to have a human in the loop. They have to actually know the subject matter, right? If I take a concept like wastewater treatment plant operations, okay? I don't know if anyone on here is a wastewater treatment plant operator. Maybe you are. I am not. And so if I'm using AI to understand wastewater treatment plant operations or putting together a plan for that, I'm going to want to have someone who actually understands that world look over the data to make sure it's accurate and relevant. It might give me a kind of a basic idea of what's going on with wastewater treatment plant operations, but I'm not going to 100% trust it. I want to trust the people who are actually working in that field and actually know the real data behind it, just to make sure I'm avoiding hallucinations or data that's not entirely accurate, understand what the ramifications of that is. And also too, the local context, right? So especially in economic development, locality is a big deal with this, right? There's a big issue with it, right? Each region is different. Each region has the strengths and weaknesses. And so that's why it's important to understand the local context. So with that being said, I'm going to stop my screen share and add another screen share here. And let me grab this right here. And hopefully everyone can see this. I'm going to maximize it so you can see it a little better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a tool called Claude. And Claude is, again, an AI writing tool. And one of the things I was thinking about today, I was actually just talking to Mike and Krista before the meeting began. A lot of the folks that I talked to in economic development are really great robust AI power users. And there's a lot of guys specifically in LinkedIn that I think are really, really good in this space, that deserve to be recognized for their work in AI. Barrow County, Georgia specifically has done some really, really great work around AI and economic development. So if you've not reached out to that team over there, highly encourage you to do that. Some phenomenal work out there in Georgia and their economic development team, especially in the space of AI specifically. So what I want to show you though is this thing called AI or Claude projects, right? A lot of us know how to use AI, how to prompt and things like that. So I'm going to assume that level of knowledge going into this. I'm going to walk you through what these AI projects or these Claude projects can do, and then I'll show you how to build one within ChatGPT. So within Claude projects, I've created a project, it's called. Basically what it allows me to do is allows me to upload knowledge or project knowledge content, depending what system you're using, different ideas for how they term the content. And basically what I've done is I've pulled together all the different funding requirements, documents related to the Build to Scale program that the EDA recently announced, a notice of funding opportunity that recently announced. And I have uploaded all these different PDFs here or text into this project knowledge. And the way you upload the content here is you simply go to add content, upload from device, or you can also add text content and paste your text in there as well. Real quick to back up here, in order to start a new project, you just put your mouse over the Claude name here, go to projects, and then you can create a project right here. I've already created one, so we'll go into here. And so what I want to understand here is I can say how, or I will say it this way, what types of projects would be eligible for a BTS or B2S grant application for a local city. So it's going to look through its knowledge, and what's looking through is the knowledge that I gave it, right? It's not going outside of the specific knowledge set I gave it, right? And obviously the knowledge set has things like what the program requirements are, eligibility requirements are, and even some of the recent winners from 2023 for these different projects, including things from like the city and county of Denver, some stuff in Indiana from their partnerships with some of their work out there in Indiana. So what we have here is, okay, here's the information programs that support technology, entrepreneurs, strengthen local innovation systems, accelerator or incubator programs for tech startups, training programs in commercializing research or new tech stuff, initiatives to increase access to capital for tech entrepreneurs, projects to build innovation capacity infrastructure such as innovation district hubs or tech hubs, shared lab spaces or prototyping facilities, workforce development initiatives focused on tech innovation jobs. So we could say here is, okay, on this one, the projects to build innovation capacity infrastructure such as innovation districts or tech hubs, we can say, I'm gonna copy this, paste this in here. I'm gonna hit Shift Enter to create a new line, get rid of that. Hit Shift Enter twice to get rid of the dot there and say, I want to build a program with a local community college to build a tech hub focused on AI, right? Because we're talking about AI, why not talk about some of the tech hub around AI thing here? So it'll give us some idea of how to do this. We can walk through it. So build a program with a local community college to create a tech hub focused on AI. Here's how you do that. Project development, curriculum development, innovation lab, incubator, accelerator program, and so on. Okay. So we can even go a step further because part of this you already know if you read through the notice of funding opportunity. And we can say this here after this is all done, we'll have a chance to review it. It's giving us some really detailed ideas here. Okay, so it talks about the building a program, curriculum development, innovation lab, incubator program, industry partnerships, workforce development, community outreach, partnerships and commitments, on and on and on. Okay, so let's go here and say, okay, walk me through a step step-by-step guide to writing a grant application for this. So it's going to give me some ideas, right? Read the NOFO thoroughly, gather the team, develop your project narrative, vision, mission, goals, regional resources and assets, proposed solution, scope of work, collaboration, measurable goals and outcomes, sustainability plan, and so on. And we can take this one at a time and actually build a whole grant through this, right? Using this as our understanding here. So we can say, all right, let's develop a project narrative. We can say, let's develop a project narrative. And basically what we're doing is we're using AI to help guide us through and write a project narrative that matches what the actual grant requirements are. Instead of trying to guess at it, we can actually do it with AI that ties the language directly to the notice of funding opportunity, the eligibility requirements, and things like that. So obviously you want to go through and make sure this is relevant to what you have. For instance, talks about training 500 students annually by year 3. If your community college is a larger community college and you think that, really I'm thinking of 1,500 students, or maybe it's a smaller one, you're like, 500 year 3 is a lot. I don't think I can hit that number, maybe more like 250, right? You want to scale it to what's relevant to your organization. But it gives us a good idea of how to do that and how to go on. And it gives us a pretty robust budget narrative, right? Or a project narrative, right? You can see here, this is pretty extensive of what this looks like. This is a pretty extensive work here, and we're already light years ahead of the traditional way of having to put pen to paper, think it through, or trying to figure out what exactly our project narrative is. We can have a huge leg up on how to do this. So I know you're all thinking, okay, this is a cool program and cool how we can do this. How do I build this myself, right? How do I actually build these things in here in order to have different projects or different tools that are available to grant writing, to these different economic development projects that we have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to actually build these projects and these what we'll refer to as GPTs in the ChatGPT OpenAI model. I'm going to show you how to do that, and that way for any project that you have, right? This isn't just limited to grant writing or these different grant things. It could be strategic plans. It could be something with putting together general plans and all the different areas of economic development that you have. You can actually create tailored GPTs and tailored AI models based 100% on your data that you give it, which is extremely, extremely valuable. So I'm going to go over here. I am in ChatGPT just to make sure that we are sharing the right screen. I believe we are. I'll double check. Yep. Okay, we're good. We're rock and rolling here. So here's how to do this. I'm gonna walk this through. If you already know how to do this, bear with me. It might be repetitive information, but I think this is really valuable. So I'm on ChatGPT. I clicked on Explore GPTs, and then I'm gonna go to Create. Here in this Create, I'm gonna say I am creating a GPT that allows me to write EDA grants. So this is going to tell the GPT what it's doing, why it's doing it, and provide kind of the basics of what we're trying to do. It's going to ask me a couple questions. It'll ask me kind of what kind of image I want for my GPT, the icon, or what name I want, and that's fine for the name. So we'll do some basic stuff here. Update that. It's going to give me a profile picture for this. I'm just going to accept whatever they give me for the sake of time. Going to generate the profile picture here, and you can edit that. You can change if you don't like that one. You can do different things. Okay, there's an issue. Let's proceed without it for now. It'll ask me what kind of tone I want to have or what should emphasize or avoid. I want to emphasize the grant writing and tailored to economic development projects for local governments. Again, I'm just providing some basic context for the GPT. That way it understands how to operate and what the goals of this here. Use a more professional tone, keep it conversational, approachable, or formal. For this one, let's keep it formal. Let's keep it professional and formal. Because we're writing grants, we want to make sure it's professional. You can do some fun stuff with it. For instance, I have a GPT called Take It for Granted, which is kind of a more conversational and fun approach to grant writing that I have, just in case I want to have some, some fun with it. So you can do some stuff like that. Okay, so now what we can do here is we're gonna go to the configure tab. And here's where we have all the instructions we just gave it right here, the description, and we're gonna upload these different files, right? And what we're gonna have available here is I'm gonna turn off image generation because I need to create images for this one. I'm gonna turn on code interpreter and data analytics or data analysis. I'm gonna upload some files here. So you click upload files. It's gonna go here. I'm gonna go to my downloads. I'm gonna upload all these different PDFs that I have available here for this build to scale program that I grabbed from Perplexity. I went in Perplexity, said what kind of EDA grants are available. It showed me this one. And so I'm gonna upload all these different documents here, okay? Other additional settings you can have, you can use conversation data in your GPT to improve our models. I click this off because I don't like sharing. I never liked sharing as a kid, so I don't like sharing now. You can also create new actions here too, so you can do other ones from your OpenAI schema. If you have that, just know that that's available there for the power users there. Okay, so now that we have this all put together, let's look at these different preview questions. Okay, so let's click this one right here. How should I structure the budget for this EDA grant? And these are some preset questions that are available. We'll show what this looks like. It's going to think this through. Okay, follow these steps and considerations. Use a non-constructive budget narrative template. Helps you break down costs into specific categories, provides instructions for personnel, fringe benefits, travel. So you can see it's using the information that provided for it. I uploaded a non-construction budget narrative template for that. Ensure budget costs are reasonable, allocable, and necessary for the project. Categories to include. So it's giving me some ideas of how to build this out, what that looks like, which is pretty cool. So far, so good. This is what we want to do, and we can get started here in a second into actually building a grant application for this project here. Once this is done, I'll show you how to save this and how to launch your GPT here in a quick second here. So just going through talking about the different things you want to have, matching funds, talks about it has to equal at least 50% of the project, can be in the form of cash or in-kind contributions. Budget should clearly outline how these matching funds are allocated across the budget categories. It talks about the budget narrative and justification. Explain why staff time or equipment is critical to achieving project goals. Each budget item must be directly linked to project activities and outcomes. Use of the commitment index, crucial for summarizing all match and in-kind contributions, right? Some of the similar stuff we have with any type of federal grant application. They're kind of all they all run the same basic way for the most part. Okay, so we got this. To save it, we're gonna click this ellipses right here, or you can delete the GPT if you're not unhappy with it. We're gonna hit the word create here. For this one, I'm gonna say anyone with the link can use it, or you can also put it in the GPT store. You also do it only yourself if you just want you to use it. I'll put it in the GPT store for now. If anybody wants to use it, feel free to play around with it, make it available to everyone. Just look for grant proposal guide created by myself here. So we're gonna save this here. It'll save it, create the GPT, and then that'll show you how to access it once it's already saved. So bear with it while it's doing that. And I hope you're thinking through what are the ways in which we can use something like this, right? It doesn't have to just be grants. I use grants because it's a good use case, but there's a lot of things you can do with it. So you can see your GPT, you can view it, click here. I'm gonna close out of here and I'll show you how to come back to it. So say you're done, back here to Claude, let's grab a new tab here. Open ChatGPT. So where is our GPT, right? You look at your GPTs, explore 8 more that I have here, and you can see down here, grant proposal. So here we are. Okay, so let's give it a prompt and see what we can build with this. Say I am an economic development director in Saline, Kansas, and I want to create a grant that is for a project with our local community college to create AI training for students, like a AI innovation lab. So what I did there, I was conversational in it, just kind of putting stuff on the paper. Could maybe wrote a better prompt, but what I basically was doing is providing context and a direction, right? Context of who I am, what I'm trying to do, and a direction for what I'm trying to accomplish, which is this grant for an AI innovation lab. So talks about how the project aligns well with the technology-based economic development objectives of the B2S program. And I keep wanting to say BTS. My kids right now is into this K-pop era right now, so I keep wanting to say BTS. So if I misspeak BTS, I apologize for that. But B2S program. So here's what we have: project narrative, commitments, and letters of support, budget narratives, matching things, contribution service area, action items, and so on. Okay. So the first thing we want to do here is prepare your project narrative with a focus on AI workforce and economic development. So we're going to copy this, hit this ellipses right here, and say, can you please write this for me? And so it'll go through and it'll draft a project narrative for us. Section 1, executive summary. And obviously, again, same thing with Claude. We want to make sure we're double checking the work, see what it actually says, making sure this is accurate to what we have going on. For the sake of this, for the sake of time, I'm just going to run with it. But if you're doing this in the real world, not on a webinar or something like that, you're going to want to make sure this is accurate. Going back to that, if you have the right human in the loop, make sure this is accurate for you. Okay, so here we have it. We have executive summary, vision, mission, goals, and roles, regional resources and assets, proposed solution, scope of work, achievability. And we could obviously, this is kind of giving us 2 paragraphs of data for each thing. Excuse me. You can also go in and add additional content to it. So we can actually expand on stuff like this if we wanted to. So what we could do is, you know what, I want to expand more on the proposed solution scope of work. So we can highlight this area similar to what we did before. And once it's done writing, so we can see here, once it's done writing, what we can do is, again, the same ellipses here. We can say, let's expand this section and detail more of the need for AI in local government. So it'll add more to this section here of what we're looking for. So you can, what you'll see is, probably instead of 2 paragraphs, maybe it's 3 or 4 paragraphs of content here. So if you need to add more content, more robustness to it, you can always do that way too. So we have our project narrative put together. Let's grab this next one here too, right? Commitment letters. Once that's done, and I'll show you what this looks like when it's all done here in the project narrative. You can see it's grabbing 3rd and likely a 4th and maybe even more paragraphs here. So we can add more robust content to this. We can actually make it seem a lot more put together. Maybe if you want a longer content, whatever that looks like, if you're trying to do that way. So you can see this specific section is much more robust than the first paragraph we have, which was kind of simple and things like that. So we have a project narrative put together. Let's go back up here and commitment letters, right? And let's say, can you draft a commitment letter that I can send to stakeholders? And again, a lot of times with these different grants, right, what do? We write our commitment letters ourselves, and then we send it out for people to sign, right? It's kind of a typical way of doing that. And so here is our commitment letter. All right, so it talks about the project overview, commitment request, financial support, in-kind contributions, if you're like looking for that, partnerships. But here you have a template of a commitment letter, and I'll show you can do with this too, in addition to just having this commitment letter, because this is great, but how do you get this out to other people, right? How do you get this exported from ChatGPT into the hands of your colleagues, right? So what we're going to do next after this is all done is we're actually going to export this as a Word document, and then we can send this out, we can edit it, and you can do the same thing with any content you create within ChatGPT. You can export the content as a Word document or a PDF or things like that. Even Excel documents, if you're working with, say, data, you can actually export that as an Excel document and edit the data and make sure it's relevant. So we can say, please download this letter as a Word doc. Just going to analyze it, and it should create a Word document for us. We've done this a couple times before on these webinars, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on how to do this, but you'll see this is kind of what that looks like. So while it's doing that, let's go back up and see what the next section we would have to work on would be. And the next section here would be, let's see here, let's go back up to the action items. So the next section is going to be developing a detailed budget requirement. I'm going to hit this right here. I'm going to have to wait. You can see this icon right here means that it's still developing that Word doc for me. You can see what it's doing here if you look at this. So basically it's writing the Word document for me, and you can see where it's at. So it's almost done, as you can see. Title, name, all that fun stuff right there. And you can download it using this link right there. You can download this commitment letter. The document is downloaded. And let's see if I can do this here too. I'm going to open this up, and then I'll show you that we have, in fact, this document all put together. So let me go here. I'm going to stop my share real quick. Bear with me. Stop my share, share this guy. And here is our commitment letter right there, right? So we have this, again, we can edit it. We can put our different headers on it, change things if we want to change things, just like that. So let me go back here and share this again, our grant writer here. Okay, so we're back here. We'll have to work on this next section here, and then we'll kind of wrap things up and take some questions or things like that you might have. So our next action item is developing a detailed budget. So let's do this and say, can you walk me through how to do this? So it'll walk me through specifically how to build this budget narrative, which I think is extremely, extremely helpful, right? A lot of times, this is one of the areas that often trip us up when writing grants or when doing these different opportunities, right? It's the budget side of things that always gets us, those sticky budgets. But this is going to help you make sure that you're not going outside of what the scope and requirements of this project is, right? There's some weird, funky stuff that comes with grant budgets. There's some weird, funky stuff that happens with grant management. And so understanding having the tools available like these GPTs that you can create really make sure that what you're putting together really matches exactly what the grant is looking for. Instead, because we talked before, right? A lot of these grants are similar, but sometimes there's those little details, little nuances that when you go from writing, for instance, you go from writing a CBDG grant into writing an EDA grant, there's some little nuances in there that can trip us up. And so by having these GPTs trained specifically on specific grant opportunities, it allows us to make sure we're not getting confused. Okay, well, I just wrote a CBDG grant and they want their budget this way, but EDA wants their budget narrative this way or their budget project this way. So here's a step-by-step guide, gather required information, open the budget template, input costs into categories, fringe benefits, equipment. So it talks about like travels, equipment, supplies. And what we're going to have it do is we're actually going to have it create a dummy budget narrative and budget for us, right? Just using some filler data. Obviously, you're going to want to make sure that your data is accurate. I say that a million times, but I think it's really important to emphasize is making sure that the data you use is accurate. I'm going to stop it right here for now. And I'm going to say, can you create a budget for this project for me? Use dummy placeholder numbers. So it'll go through and it'll create this budget for it, download the template, customize the letter, adjust the areas on the commitment request, send the letter. Here's a basic category. So it's going to put this into categories, description, costs, AI instructors, administrative support, fringe benefits, travel, staff travel to conferences, for example, student internships, covers transportation for students, equipment, AI lab computers, server for the lab, software licensing, supplies, office supplies, training materials, contractual stuff, guest lectures, things like that, right? Put this whole thing together for me. Maintenance costs, utilities, indirect costs, and things like that. Overhead, blah, blah, blah. We can do this again. We can say, download that table as an Excel file. I'll download this Excel file because our budget narrative, our budget worksheet is already in Excel through the EDA. So being able to copy and paste from Excel to Excel is a little easier. So we can actually download this as an Excel file and then go off to the races and put the information in, obviously edit it, make sure it's relevant to what we have in our local context. So what we basically did here, and I know there's other steps with it too, we'd have to go through, but I just want to review what we just were able to put together, right? We took something from scratch, right? We took this idea of a build to scale, notice a fun opportunity we found, and then we went from that, uploaded all the documents into our GPT that we created from scratch, put together an idea that we had. Hey, what about an AI innovation lab with our community college? Have this idea. And then from there, we built a project narrative, or first off, we understood what the project, if the project was eligible, the program requirements of it. And then we built a project narrative. We built commitment letters, and we've built a budget. We could also go on and define the service area and document potential impact on your region and economy. We'll do this one last step here and say, please do this. And by the way, there is your Excel file right there. We could download that and have that Excel file. So it'll define this for us or walk us through how to do this. Obviously, you can have them do it yourself too as well. So basically what I'm trying to get at too, I think this is really important, is just how quickly we were able to do this, right? Even things like this, and I again double check this, but I'm curious if this is the correct Federal Information Processing Standard code number, FIPS code for Saline County. And we can double check this by going like this. I'm gonna copy this, go over to Google. Zero 5127. Okay, a little off there again. So you want to double check that and make sure it's the right one, and make sure you have the right information there. But really cool how in just a matter of minutes, right? It's right now it's 11:40 Texas time, 9:40 Arizona time right here, and in less than 40 minutes, we went from having absolutely nothing for this grant opportunity to having a really robust start, right? You think through all the time you guys spend doing so many different things, all the stuff you all do in economic development takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. And using AI can help speed up the process, can help you write things better, can help make sure that your ideas and even finding what grant opportunities are available too. You could say, hey, I have an idea for this grant. What's out there for this? Or I have this idea for this project that we have. What are the different funding things that are out there? So with that being said, I'm going to stop my screen share. And Mike, I'm going to turn things back over to you and Krista. If there's any questions that are from our wonderful economic development directors and professionals across the country.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Micah. And again, I learn something every time I talk to you. So I appreciate you sharing with us. We did get a few questions, and I want to encourage people to ask more also, because we do have a few more minutes. We might be able to fit in one or two more. But one of the questions, I'm sure it's one that we all wonder, because there's so many possibilities out there with various AI platforms and programs and tools. So I'm curious to know what platform you utilize most often, Micah.
So I utilize it's two platforms that I use a lot. First is Perplexity. I use that a lot for just research and finding information, a lot of the stuff, because I just like the ability to source information and find out whether or not the source is accurate or not. So I use Perplexity a lot. And then I also use ChatGPT a lot. I can do a lot with it. So I can do everything from these GPTs I created. I can build visualizations with data I provide it. I can have it write stuff, even something as simple as, rewrite this. I'll put something together and I don't like the way it's worded because I'm not naturally a good writer, and I will ask ChatGPT to refine or revise for clarity and conciseness. And so I'm constantly using these tools to help become a better writer. And basically what I'm trying to do is communicate more effectively is what I'm trying to accomplish.
I like that. I got the I feel like I should have taken a screenshot and like framed it or something, because I got a response from ChatGPT that said, your message is written clearly and concisely and conveys your message. And I was like, well, but aren't you going to change it? And it was like,
take that
your
win.
message
Take
is
that
well
win.
written. And I was like, what?
That's
I thought I
amazing.
broke ChatGPT for a minute.
Yeah.
And Mike, do you want to ask a few questions as well?
Yeah, I got a question that came in, Micah. There's different PowerPoint formats that can be used, AI formats. What's one of the ones that you like to use the most when it comes to creating a PowerPoint?
So what I like to do in creating PowerPoint, there's two ways of doing it. Number one, I can do that within ChatGPT, and actually it's a complicated way of doing it, but you can actually have ChatGPT write the VBA code for the PowerPoint, actually create it from scratch. All the ones I like using are things like a tool called Dectopus is really, really great. And I also wouldn't forget about a tool called Canva, which has a lot of AI capabilities built into it as well. So it's really cool things. I like I'm a little more, I like having more control over the PowerPoint content and what it's creating than some of the AI tools. I think it's really important when you're doing a presentation, make sure it fits your style and what you're trying to do because you're the presenter. So I use ChatGPT to kind of create the slides for me, and then I'll put the slides and the content into a traditional PowerPoint, move things around because I want to make sure that when I'm presenting, I'm comfortable with what I'm presenting.
So basically, you can tell ChatGPT, create a PowerPoint for me, and then you're just cutting and pasting, correct?
Yep, just creating the content and then moving things around or doing stuff like that. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. I appreciated what you said, Micah, about the condensation of time, because these grant writing experiences can be so time consuming, and you showed us how that can be done, at least the start of it, in a very short period of time. And I think about economic development work and how many people have to be involved in that. I think you've given us a real gift today. I'm sure people are going to enjoy watching this on our YouTube channel as well. So
yeah. And Mike, I think the important thing is to understand that AI is going to give you probably a 60 to 70% solution, right? You're going to have to do the work to fill in the other 30 to 40%, but a 60 to 70% solution is really, really valuable, and especially with time management and resource management.
Yeah, for sure. Well, great job, Micah. Krista, any other questions that we have?
Yes, there was one more question. Micah, how did you gather the original PDFs for the upload?
So I gathered that using Perplexity. I just asked Perplexity, what grant opportunities are available for economic development. It took me to the Economic Development Agency's webpage. I looked at the webpage, and on their webpage, they have all the PDF, like in any type of notice of fund opportunity, they provide all that detail, right? You go to grants.gov, you go to EDA website, USDA website, whatever you're looking at, they actually provide under the grant itself, they provide the notice of fund opportunities, they provide all that there on their webpage. And I downloaded all those PDFs, and then that's where I got all the PDFs from.
Awesome.
Just directly from the source.
I also like that you mentioned something about like generating code. I learned recently, I was working on a project and needed to correct syntax, and I was having a rough time with it. And so finally I copy and pasted it into ChatGPT and said, can you correct this? And it just spit it back out. I just copy and pasted. So I think sometimes it's, you just have to think big with what you can do with those tools.
Exactly.
So I also, Mike, before you wrap, I just wanted to take a quick second because you talked about the TLG conference coming up in April, but we also have a conference coming up in January, our Servant Leadership Conference. So that's my shameless plug for the Servant Leadership Conference. And I'll put the link in the chat as well in case anybody's interested.
Yeah, for sure. That there you can attend the Servant Leadership Conference either in person here in Grapevine, January 30th, 31st of 2025, or you can watch it virtually. And it's a little less expensive and you don't have travel costs. So we would love for you to join us. And the virtual experience is an interactive experience. One of our best online facilitators, Andy Duke, will be facilitating some breakout groups online. So I think you'll get a great value for participating in that. So thanks for that shameless plug there, Krista. It's wonderful. Micah, as always, it's great to have you with us. We really, really appreciate all that you put into teaching us during this time. And we look forward to next month again.
Thank you all.
Thanks to everyone that's joined us. Thank you, Lisa and Kim, and of course, my colleague, Krista. And hope everyone has a great day. And we'll see you down the road.